Hey there, it's another beautiful day. The lighting is a little weird because it's actually extremely cloudy outside, which is completely unusual for Southern California in July. But we'll take it. Let's watch some stuff.
The biggest mistake I ever made as a parent, in my opinion, was letting my children go to public school. The second biggest mistake was letting them go to a school at all. The purpose of school is to manufacture employees for businesses. It's not to teach your children to be smart. There's a book that I would recommend highly. It's called Weapons of Mass Instruction. John Taylor Gatto. He was the 5-time Teacher of the Year in New York, and he became totally disillusioned when he realized that the purpose of being a school teacher was not to teach math. I think that maybe he taught English or math. He said, I became disillusioned the day I realized my job was not to teach math, but my job was to teach school. Think about it. In school, they teach you that nothing is important. Well, how do they do that? It's the only place that you will ever work in your life where you work on something for 45 or 55 minutes and then a bell rings and you close your book. You don't care about that anymore until tomorrow. It doesn't make any sense. And the reason they use bells in schools is because that's what they use on the assembly lines. Lunchtime, ring a bell. Okay, go to lunch. Ring a bell again. You come back from lunch. The whole thing was programmed for a stimulus response. We still tell our children, well, if you want to do well in life, you got to go to college, get a degree. Well, the only reason we tell them that is because that's what we're expected to tell them. We haven't really thought about it.
I apologize. I am going to be very long-winded here because that is absolutely 100% accurate. And I'm thinking about my senior year in high school when we were reading The Metamorphosis by Franz Kafka. And we were like dissecting every single word and why it was put next to this word and what that means. And oh, it drove me absolutely crazy. And we were given an assignment where you would read this chapter and then tell the teacher what you think that meant. And then you find out there's actually only one answer. And it's the one that that teacher had received from their teacher, who had received from their teacher, who had decided that this is the answer. This is what this particular thing means. Dude turned into a cockroach and then died. I don't freaking care. It was a dumbass book. I don't know why it was required reading. As far as the colleges, I don't tell my children they have to go to college. I just tell them they need to be a productive member of society. Once you get out of school, you need to have a direction and figure it out. You know, and if you do decide that there's something you want to do and you have to go to college in order to do that thing and that's something that you love, or there's a trade school you can go to, fantastic, I'm all aboard. Just be a good person, be a productive member of society, and pay your own way. Hey, thanks so much for stopping by today. If there's a topic you'd like me to cover, let me know down in the comments below and I'll do my best to get it in an upcoming video. If you're having a good time, please hit that like button and consider subscribing. And then come back tomorrow because I'm making a new video every day.
These are some of the nefarious techniques megalomaniacs use to control masses of people. Keep your minds open so that you do not fall into the traps they set. 1. The classic fear strategy. This is when the tyrant creates a bogeyman who is coming to make you suffer, and they, the tyrant, are the only person who can save you. If a politician says something that fills you with dread, maybe that's a red flag. 2. Of course, propaganda. The thing is, propaganda can be subtle. The best deception is when lies are mixed with the truth to hook you in and the lie to pin you down. An alert mind uses critical thinking and healthy skepticism to guard against being deceived. 3. Dictators limit the amount of information people receive. The more ignorant the masses, the easier to control. The best approach is to always retain a level of skepticism about everything you hear from the so-called official channels. 4. Police speech. If they can stop you from saying what they don't want to hear, then no one gets to hear the truth. The best outcome for the despot is when you start to censor yourself. 5. Issue threats. This can be the threat of violence or loss of livelihood or loss of life. The power the tyrant wields is only made possible by ordinary people like you and me when we start to fight each other in the name of ideology. Ultimately, we become our own tyrants.
That was a really good breakdown. You know that's what they do. That's what everybody does. It's on both sides. It's on all sides. It's always coming around you. They want you to be afraid of the opposition. Whether we're in a time of war and they want you to be like, oh, gung-ho against whoever the enemy is at this point, yeah, they're going to do all of this fear-mongering and it's how they do mass mind control. And it's so subtle that you don't even realize it. It's just something that kind of makes you go, ooh, I don't like that. And then you're boom, you've picked your side, and they've picked your side for you.
I want to welcome in Kentucky Congressman and Chairman of the Oversight Committee, James Comer. Congressman, good morning. Good to see you.
Good morning.
My goodness, it has been a wild 2 weeks, and something tells me it's going to go on and on until Joe Biden steps out of this race. You have asked Jill Biden's aide, Anthony Bernal, Deputy Chief of Staff Annie Tomasini, and Senior Advisor Ashley Williams. Now, these are names that people are not familiar with, but you've asked them to testify because all three of these people have access to the private residence at the White House. Why did you choose these three people specifically?
Our research indicates that these are the three people that have been pulling the strings for quite some time in the White House. These are the three people that have been trying to cover up the fact that Joe Biden hasn't been mentally or physically able to perform the job of president, much less to run for an additional 4-year term. What we're seeing, even in the mainstream media now, is that Joe Biden's been sick a long time, and people have known it within his administration. These three people, their names keep popping up as the gatekeepers, in addition to Hunter Biden. But these three employees of the White House are the ones that have shielded the president from the press. They've shielded members of Congress from meeting with the president. They lead him around. They write cue cards out that says, sit down, stand up, smile, walk away after you give your statement. And we have a lot of questions for these people because I think the American people all are in agreement now that Joe Biden isn't fit to serve as president. And we want to know how long he's been in this condition and why they've been a part of what I think is one of the biggest cover-ups in our nation's history.
Speaking of picking sides, just 2 days ago, all of the freaking Democratic politician people, the head honchos, right, and the financial backers of the Democratic Party had their little meeting, and they decided that they're going to continue, propping up Joe Biden in this candidacy for president, right? And then now this Comer guy is like, hey, I'm calling in all these people. We're going to talk to them because we're going to get them out. Just freaking leave it alone. If these Democrats want to show how desperate they are to continue having their money in their pockets in this manner by exploiting this poor man and his cognitive ability, let them do it. Just let them do it. Something's going to happen, and then the curtain will come down, and the wizard will be revealed.
I just got back from Whole Foods, and check out what I just discovered.
Walked in, and the first place I headed was their fresh baked goods, where all of their fresh cookies were. And as you can see, all of them contain bioengineered ingredients. Then I headed over to the cakes, and I'm sorry, $30 for a cake with these ingredients? No, thank you. Then I headed to their prepackaged stuff, and there you go. There it is again. And even their brownies contained it. So then I found another cake, and there it is, and there you go.
I'm not 100% certain, but I'm pretty sure that just about any plant product that people eat is bioengineered. It's been like crossbred or, bred in a specific manner to produce more of whatever it is that we eat, right? I think so anyway.
Okay, so this whole thing about bioengineered foods from Aldi is like going viral on TikTok, right? So I'll show you here. I looked into it, and what this means is that it contains genetically modified food items. So just like GMO, in I think the beginning of 2019, there was a new law passed to where the labeling of GMO is different. So they do not have to label it GMO. They can add this that contains bioengineered ingredients. And guys, I'm sorry, this is obviously not good. So everyone's talking shit. Aldi has all these bioengineered food products. Every store has these, okay? This is obviously shit. So I think people are spreading stuff that's just not necessary.
Yep, there it is. It's not just in Whole Foods, it's everywhere because, like I said, I'm pretty sure that anything that grows out of the ground that is meant for human consumption has been genetically modified in one way or another. Excuse me, bioengineered.
The NTP toxicity study that was done by the United States government, it was released on November 1st, 2018. They did it on nocturnal mammals. They used 1G, 2G, and 3G phones. Okay? This is way before 5G. In those animals, they found humongous problems. You can look this study up on the internet. Every G causes a different resonance problem. Like 1G isn't equivalent to 5. 4 isn't equivalent to 5.
And you mean like different tuning fork issue?
Correct. Certain people have different mitochondrial haplotypes. We also have different skin types. Every single screen, have you ever stopped and asked yourself why we need Dan Huber's glasses? Because they have found through the programs that the government sponsored, at Tulane Neurosurgery and Neurology, it's called MK Ultra, that they were able to control people through light waves, wires in their head to figure out how they can control the behavior of monkeys. That's actually was done in a place close to where I went to medical school. I knew about all of these studies.
So we can be controlled by light waves?
No, not we can, we are.
We are.
Okay?
I didn't watch the whole interview. I just watched this little part of it. And at first, it made me think that it was going to be an advertisement for the glasses. But then he went into talking about light and experiments and MK Ultra and stuff like that. And we talked about this recently, how if you have like fiber optics sticking in your brain and it shines on a very particular synapse, it can make you change your mood or something like that. How improbable it really is. I understand how certain lights around you, different colors, can make you feel like more calm, or it can make you feel anxious and stuff like that. So it wouldn't be impossible to feel like, okay, you walking into a particular area and this light is shining and it makes you think, oh, I'm gonna buy more. Or like in restaurants, right? You go into certain restaurants and the lighting is like super low and it's very orange, right? They put that little candle in the middle and you just sit there a lot longer and eat more. I mean, maybe that's just me.
It pays to be ignorant. Between 1896 and 1920, a small number of powerful industrialists, together with their private foundations, spent more money on mass force schooling than the government did. Indeed, Andrew Carnegie and John D. Rockefeller together spent more money than the government did on schooling. If you want to know the motives of this project, you need only read the first public mission statement of Rockefeller's General Education Board that was printed in its first report to well-wishers, issued in 1906. People yield themselves with perfect docility to our molding hands. The present education conventions of intellectual and character education fade from their minds, and unhampered by tradition, we work our own will. We shall not try to make these people or any of their children into philosophers or men of learning or men of science. We have not to raise up from them authors, educators, poets, men of letters. We shall not search for artists, painters, musicians, lawyers, doctors, preachers, politicians, statesmen, of which we have an ample supply. The task is simple. We will organize children and teach them in a perfect way the things their fathers and mothers are doing in an imperfect way. The real purpose of modern schooling was announced by Edward Ross of the University of Wisconsin in the same year that was written. Ross is generally considered one of the three founders of the 20th century discipline called sociology. And in a book bluntly called Social Control, Ross wrote, I'll quote directly, "Plans are underway to replace family, church, and community with propaganda, education, and mass media. People," he informed his readers, "are only little plastic lumps of dough." Another insider of modern schooling, H. Goddard, chairman of the psychology department at Princeton, called government schooling in 1920, quote, "the perfect organization of the hive." Goddard wrote that standardized testing was to cause the lower classes to confront their biological inferiority.
And we all recall Rockefeller's famous quote, "I don't want a nation of thinkers, I want a nation of workers." And he helped develop the public school system into what it is today. steaming heap of crap. It's what it is. And nobody is taught how to think, just what to think. I mean, for crying out loud, you only got to get 25% right in order to pass. To graduate from high school, you only need to have 25% accuracy. It's insane. It's absolutely unheard of what the school system has become today. And it really is, keeping people down. Like when standardized testing, we still have standardized testing every single year, twice a year, to see what the kids know, right? How much money gets to go to this school and how much money gets to go to that school based on how well you remember what they taught you to think. On that note, I'm going to call it for today. Thank you so much for sharing your time with me. Come on back tomorrow. We're going to watch some new stuff. I'll say different things, and it's going to be fantastic. Until then, have a wonderful day.